Why don't we make greater use of spool shops? Hello and welcome back, and thanks for stopping in. This is not a question you're going to hear on every site, and the evidence of that is, the great number of available spooling shops that a person could have this done at. But it is a legitimate question that I've faced on site, and even beyond that, I was in a situation as a turnaround manager where the entire basis of my plan for the delivery on a multi-pump pump skid was to spool up all the small bore pipe and bring it in as parts. And it would have saved a great deal of money, and more importantly, it would have freed up a lot of schedule time. But I was overruled by leadership in that company. And I was told under no circumstances can you do that. And that really wasn't even based on, just somebody having some kind of strong, feverish belief on stick building. They fully believed, the exact thing I was told by the vice president who, basically put my job on the line over it was, if we do what you want to do, 80% or more of those spools will have to be recut anyway, and we'll just end up paying for everything twice. Okay. Well, that might be true if I meant that I was gonna if I was gonna pull the spool maps. Maybe you'd have some justification in feeling that way. And perhaps, Mr. Vice President, if it was you pulling the measurements for the spool maps, we would have that kind of a problem to deal with. However, if any client of mine is having a problem with creating valid spool maps that are going to work for them, then we got to go back to talking about contractor selection, right? Like, are you choosing a contractor because it's a friend of a friend or your brother or something? Because serious turnaround GCs, I'm not going to say you're never going to get a cutout if you do things through spooling. That would be too all-encompassing. But my own experience with having, the small bore parts of a job is really what we're talking about, especially the 1-inch spaghetti piping that, just turns into a nightmare when you try to do that on site stick building it, but all the way up to 2-inch. If you're talking about, horns for control valves and pump peripheral piping, all of that stuff, like you can send that out months in advance. You can have it spooled up. You can bring it in as parts instead of as materials. And now your whole challenge, once the actual equipment itself is installed, is just bolt on the piping. And yeah, maybe once in a while you'll have a cutout. But you know what? I've seen this done a lot with stick building, and I've seen a lot of cutouts. So I don't support the arguments that's been used on me to not do it. And I strongly support that there's massive, performance gains to be made by pushing as much of your welding and fabrication off-site as possible. And when it comes to small bore piping, again, I'll say it again, because if people are on the side where they disagree with me, they disagree with me, and that's fine. But I'm going to point this out like I did at the beginning. If you pick up a phone book, that shows my age. If you go and into your Google and check for welding operations with spool up capabilities in your area, you're going to find a lot of them. And to hold on to your belief that spooling doesn't work, you're going to have to come up with some explanation why there's so many successful spooling shops out there, right? I'll tell you what's really happening. Your competitors are using those shops. That's why the shops are successful. And that's usually why one of the reasons why your competitors are more successful than you are. So why don't we use spooling shops? Good question. I don't have a clean answer. It's almost always some kind of a management leadership decision, and I really can't support the basis that it's made on, right? If I ask my GC to build a spool map for a pump skid, I'm 99.9% sure that those spools will come in probably better than 99% accurate. Peace out.